This next video is brought to you by Privacy, which is a totally free service that autofills virtual credit card numbers when you buy things online so that you never have to give merchants your real credit or debit card information. Take control of your payments and get $5 when you sign up for free at privacy.com/TYT.
Economic numbers are out, and unfortunately, the economy just took the single biggest quarterly downturn ever in American history. So rather than work toward a solution, unfortunately, Donald Trump has literally said that he doesn't care. We have a direct quote from him saying he doesn't care. But first, let's get to the numbers. So the US economy contracted at a 32.9% annual rate from April through June, its worst drop on record. And that's according to what the Bureau of Economic Analysis indicated today, Thursday. The second quarter GDP drop was nearly 4 times worse than during the peak of the financial crisis, when the economy contracted at an annual rate of 8.4%. in the fourth quarter of 2008. So we can compare and also visualize this economic downturn to the Great Recession. And if you look at that number, or if you look at this graph, you can see just how pronounced this drop is in the GDP, in the GDP. And so unfortunately, there's also no end in sight when it comes to the economic devastation that average Americans are feeling in the midst of this pandemic. And this is what we're hearing from the New York Times. With negotiations barely started to find a middle ground between Republicans' $1 trillion plan and Democrats' $3 trillion package, Trump poured cold water on the entire enterprise, saying that he would prefer a bare bones package that would send payments to people and protect them from being evicted. But he also added this. He said, quote, "The rest of it, we're so far apart, we don't care. We really don't care." And let me be clear about something. When he says the rest of it, he's not saying like, no, look, I want bare bones in that I want to send money directly to Americans, and I'm going to stop giving trillions of dollars to these massive corporations and the Trump organization. Let's keep it real, right? No, that's not what he's saying. He wants to give another one-time check to Americans. He does not want to continue the unemployment benefits that were funded under the CARES Act. Again, bare bones. And he has made it clear he does not care. Whatever you're feeling right now, whatever stress you're going through because of this pandemic and how it's impacted you economically, doesn't care. But instead of focusing on helping Americans, he'd rather scare suburban voters into thinking that Black and brown people are invading their pristine neighborhoods. Here's what he said yesterday. Let's take a look.
And by the way, I just ended the rule on suburbs. You know, the suburbs, people fight all of their lives to get into the suburbs and have a beautiful home. There will be no more low-income housing forced into the suburbs. I abandoned and took away and just rescinded the rule. It's been going on for years. I've seen conflict for years. It's been hell for suburbia. We rescinded the rule 3 days ago. So enjoy your life, ladies and gentlemen, enjoy your life.
So I just want to remind everyone that in 2016, Donald Trump was able to win the election with the support of voters in suburbs. But this time around, polling indicates that he is not performing well among suburban voters. And the very notion of suburbs, when you look at the historical context in which suburbs formed, you'll understand what he is essentially doing a dog whistle toward, right? There's a racist history behind that. And in this next clip, Richard Rothstein explains it.
Any of these developers, the only way they could get the capital to build these giant subdivisions was by going to the Federal Housing Administration, submitting their plans for the development for approval of the construction materials they were going to use, the architectural design, the layout of the streets in the subdivision, and an explicit commitment not to sell a home to an African American, required by the Federal Housing Administration. The Federal Housing Administration even required, as a condition of these guarantees, developers like Levitt to place a clause in the deed of every home prohibiting resale to African Americans or rental to African Americans. These deeds still exist in these homes today. They're no longer enforced, no longer enforceable, but they're still there.
The white families over the next couple of generations gained, you can do the arithmetic, $200, $300, $400, $500,000 in equity. They used that equity to send their children to college, to take care of medical emergencies, to take care of economic downturns, most importantly, to bequeath it to their children, who then had down payments for their own homes. African Americans who accumulated none of that wealth as a result of this federal subsidy had none of those abilities. Today, nationwide, African American incomes are on average about 60% of white incomes. African American wealth today is 10% of white wealth.
So Ida, Donald Trump is doing what you would expect him to do, right? He's latching on to his fear mongering about minority groups, sowing additional fear, division, and hatred in the country, because that's all he's known and that's all that has worked for him in the past. And so again, he's going to latch onto it, hoping that it would help him get reelected. But it's absolutely disgusting, and it is only his rhetoric has only made this country worse. And we see it out on the streets right now.
That literally made me want to vomit. But it also made me think, does that mean that all of the white people are going to leave our neighborhoods that they gentrified and go back to their neighborhoods and leave them? And let our let our businesses live that they've taken from us, that our bodegas that are now vegan shops and coffee shops, are you going back to your neighborhoods? That is racist talk 101. He does it all the time. He does it every day now. He understands that reasonable human beings, white, black, and brown alike, are no longer rolling with him. So who does he have to talk to? Who does he have to signal with his white power racist talk and tweets? Racist white people who are afraid of people of color, who don't want them in their neighborhoods. And I swear to you, I don't know what makes racist white America, think that if we could do a mass exodus, that we wouldn't. I don't understand what makes people think that we want to be here under these conditions when we are constantly seeing a reflection of ourselves being mistreated daily in this country. So when I hear this kind of talk, it's no surprise to me, because Donald Trump knows that anybody with an intellect or any semblance of humanity is not on board with his program. So who is he talking to? He is talking to white supremacists, racist America, Nazis, people who hate black people, brown people, indigenous people, Jews, anybody he can round up at this base. At this point is who he's talking to, which is why you got these dummies at grocery stores wearing masks with swastikas on them. Because at this point, those are the only people he can talk to, because anybody who has a brain is not following this fool anymore. So he's just doing what he has to do out of desperation. He's like, you know what? Where's the KKK at? Get him on the phone, because everybody who's white, who is a human being that has any decency, cannot roll with that program. They're just not. So that's who he's talking to at this point. So if he's talking to you, you are a dummy and you are soulless and you will perish at his hands, because he hates you too. He's just never going to tell you that, because he needs you to do his dirty work for him.
Yeah, I mean, his disdain for poor people is pretty clear. It's not just people of color, it's white people who happen to be poor as well. He has used his position of power to further enrich himself, to make people who were already wealthy and powerful even more wealthy and powerful. So you're absolutely right. And I think that some of the blue collar workers who thought voting for him would mean that they would no longer be left behind economically, have come to notice a pretty stark reality. The question is, are they willing to wake up and acknowledge that reality and switch gears? And
they don't have the education to know better of who's taking it away from them. Remember, they're being told that we're taking it away from them. So that's the problem when you prey on people. First of all, you downplay education and the people who have it, so that you can target the people who don't have it and tell them whatever you want them to tell them, because they don't have the benefit of an education. So when I say that, he's insulting his base daily, because he knows that they don't have the money to go to a good school like his kids went to. So of course you're gonna tell blue collar workers, it's the Mexicans that are coming over here taking it away from you. And they don't know better, because they don't understand economics and capitalism in depth. So that's what's happening. Nobody insults Donald Trump's base more than Donald Trump. I stand by that. He daily insults their intelligence because he knows that he's like, look, being a dummy is the thing to be, right? These people, these smug people with educations, like my children who went to the best schools, you don't want to be like that. Now, believe everything that I tell you, and you don't know better because you're too busy surviving. You don't have health care. You're working for not a decent wage. You live in a house in a neighborhood, you can't get a loan. Doesn't matter if you white, if you poor, you know what you are in America. So that's what's happening. That's what he does.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. We really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.